Hey, quick question. When was the last time you took ibuprofen? Last week? Yesterday? This morning? Yeah, I thought so. Because here's the thing. Ibuprofen is everywhere. Advil, Nurofen, Brufen, Motrin. Different names, same drug. And pretty much everyone on the planet has a box of it somewhere in their house. Got a headache? Ibuprofen. Sore back? Ibuprofen. Hungover on a Sunday morning? Ibuprofen. And honestly, it works. Nobody's taking that away from it. But did you know that ibuprofen can literally punch holes in your gut lining? Not metaphorically, physically. Perforations, bleeding, silent damage deep in your small intestine that you can't feel until it's already gotten pretty bad. And that's not even the scariest part. Because this drug, the one sitting in your medicine cabinet right now, also has documented effects on your heart. We'll get to that. I'm a pharmacist with 9 years of experience. I've recommended ibuprofen hundreds of times, and today I'm going to walk you through exactly what the science says about what it's doing inside your body while it's making your headache disappear. 2 major peer-reviewed studies, real data, no fluff. Here's what we're covering today. First, how ibuprofen actually works, in plain English. Then, what it's doing to your gut at the cellular level. Then, the heart risk data that most people have never heard of. And finally, what you should actually take instead. All right, let's go. Part 1. How ibuprofen works. Okay, so first things first. What even is ibuprofen? Ibuprofen belongs to a class of drugs called NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. It's a mouthful, you don't need to remember it. But just know ibuprofen is part of a whole family of similar drugs. Naproxen, that's Aleve in the US, Feminax in the UK, same family. Diclofenac, that's Voltaren, also same family. And they all work in a similar way. They block something in your body called COX enzymes, COX-1 and COX-2. Now, your COX enzymes are responsible for making these little chemical messengers called prostaglandins. Think of prostaglandins like your body's alarm system. They show up when something is inflamed and they basically go, "Hey, this area hurts. Pay attention." Ibuprofen comes in and hits the mute button on that alarm. Block the enzymes, fewer prostaglandins, less pain. Simple, elegant, effective. But, and this is the crucial part, those same prostaglandins that create pain, they also do a lot of other jobs. They protect the lining of your stomach. They keep blood flowing to your gut. They help maintain the whole intestinal barrier. So when ibuprofen mutes that alarm system, it's not just killing the pain, it's also quietly dismantling some of your gut's natural defenses. And that is where the trouble starts.
All right, we just covered how ibuprofen works. Now, let's talk about what it's actually doing to your insides. Because we all grew up hearing, take ibuprofen with food. It can upset your stomach. Like it's just a bit of a tummy ache, right? Take it with a sandwich. You're fine. But the actual science says it goes way, way deeper than that. Here's what's happening at the cellular level. Ibuprofen is a weak acid, and when it enters your body, it has this sneaky chemical property. It slips right through the lining of your gut cells. Once inside the cell, it gets trapped, and then it does something fascinating and terrible. It starts attacking the mitochondria. Your mitochondria, those little power stations inside every one of your cells. The things that take the food you eat and convert it into actual energy your body can use. Think of them as tiny factories. Every cell has them. They are running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And ibuprofen, once it sneaks into the cell, essentially walks into that factory and starts smashing the machines. Now, there's a technical term for this process. It's called disrupting oxidative phosphorylation. Okay, that sounds incredibly intimidating, and I promise you do not need to remember it. In fact, forget I said it. Just think of it this way. Ibuprofen is basically throwing sand in the gears of your cell's engine. The engine chokes, slows down, stops producing energy. That's it. That's the whole concept. All you need to know is this. Ibuprofen starves your gut cells of energy. The factory stops working. And when a cell runs out of energy, it starts to fall apart. Now, here's the visual I want you to hold on to. Imagine your intestinal wall is a solid brick wall, sturdy, protective, no gaps. Between each brick, there's cement, and in your gut, those cement connections are called tight junctions. They hold everything together. They keep the bad stuff on the inside of your gut from leaking out into your bloodstream. When ibuprofen kills the energy supply in those cells, the tight junctions crumble. Gaps open up in the wall, and your gut, that was supposed to be a sealed barrier, becomes porous, leaky. This is literally called leaky gut. And before you think that's some wellness influencer made-up thing, it's a real, documented, measurable phenomenon that shows up in scientific research. And here's the part that genuinely shocked me when I read this paper. Most people assume ibuprofen is mainly a stomach drug. Like, worst case, you get an ulcer in your stomach. Painful, but manageable. But the damage isn't just in your stomach. It's in your small intestine. According to the research, up to 70% of people who take NSAIDs long-term have measurable inflammation in their small intestine. 70%. And about 30% have actual erosions or ulcers down there. And the cruelest part? The small intestine doesn't give you obvious warning signs. Your stomach yells at you. Burning, pain, nausea. Your small intestine just quietly bleeds. And you might just feel a bit tired, a bit anemic, a bit off, but you'd never in a million years connect it to the ibuprofen you've been taking for your bad knee. Okay, gut damage covered. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting, and honestly, more alarming, because we haven't even talked about what ibuprofen does to your heart yet. And that's where we're going next. So let's switch gears for a second. Everything I just told you, that's the molecular story, the why. Now I want to give you the numbers, the how bad. And for this, we go to the Lancet. If you don't know the Lancet, it's one of the oldest, most respected medical journals on the planet. Founded in 1823, that's older than most countries. And a group of researchers from Oxford decided to do something huge. Instead of running one new study, they thought, let's collect every decent randomized trial on NSAIDs that has ever been done. Hundreds and hundreds of studies. They gathered the data, pooled it all together, and essentially ran one enormous analysis on top of all of it. And the combined data set? 350,000 people. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the entire population of Iceland. Every single person in the whole country of Iceland sitting in one giant room, all being studied at once. That is not a small sample. That is not a fluke. That is as close to definitive as clinical science gets. So, what did 350,000 people tell us? Let's start with the gut. People taking ibuprofen at high doses had nearly 4 times the risk of serious gastrointestinal complications. Not a bit of discomfort, serious complications, bleeding, perforation, obstruction, 4 times the risk. For comparison, even the newer, safer anti-inflammatory drugs, the ones specifically designed to be gentler on the gut, only showed about twice the risk. Ibuprofen, almost 4. That's a big number. But hold on, because the heart data is coming up next, and that one I genuinely didn't see coming.
All right, gut story done. We've established that ibuprofen, especially long-term, is doing real damage to your intestinal lining in ways you probably can't feel. But now, the part that surprised even me as a pharmacist, what ibuprofen does to your heart. Now, most of us have heard that aspirin affects the heart, and a lot of people know that a drug called Vioxx, a different anti-inflammatory, got pulled from the market back in 2004 because it was causing heart attacks. That was a big scandal. Merck ended up paying billions. But ibuprofen? The thing you can grab off the shelf at a gas station at 11 p.m. for $4? Yeah, The same 350,000-person dataset from The Lancet found that people taking high-dose ibuprofen had more than double the risk of a serious coronary event. We're talking heart attacks. More than double. And it gets worse. Every single NSAID studied, ibuprofen, diclofenac, naproxen, all of them roughly doubled the risk of being hospitalized for heart failure. Not just my ankles are a bit swollen, hospitalized for heart failure. That's your heart genuinely struggling to pump blood around your body. Now, I need to say this clearly because I don't want to leave you panicking. These risks show up most strongly at high doses. We're talking the maximum daily dose taken continuously, often by people who already have other health conditions. If you took 2 ibuprofen last Tuesday for a headache, your heart is fine. But if you're someone who takes ibuprofen every day for chronic pain, for arthritis, for a bad back, and nobody's ever talked to you about this risk, that's a conversation worth having with your doctor, because the risk isn't zero, and most people have absolutely no idea. They think ibuprofen is just a harmless little pill. It isn't.
Okay, we've covered a lot of scary science. Now let's be practical. Because I am a pharmacist, and my job is to actually help you make good decisions, not just scare you. So here's what I'd tell a family member. Option 1, acetaminophen. In the US, that's Tylenol. In the UK and Europe, it's paracetamol. For a standard headache, mild pain, fever, hangover, acetaminophen is a perfectly solid choice. It works through a completely different mechanism. It doesn't have the same gut risks. It doesn't have the same heart risks. Its main risk is liver stress, but only if you take way too much or combine it with a lot of alcohol. At normal doses, generally very safe. That's option 1. Use it more. Option 2. If you genuinely need ibuprofen, take the lowest dose that works. Don't pop 2 pills just because it's faster. Start with 1. Take it with food, not because it prevents the deep gut damage we talked about, but it does reduce surface irritation. And critically, don't take it every day. Occasional use is in a completely different risk category from daily use. Option 3. Here's something interesting from the data. Naproxen, that's Aleve in the US, or generic naproxen sodium, actually showed significantly less cardiovascular risk than ibuprofen in this massive study. Now, naproxen still has gut risks, actually comparable to ibuprofen. But if you're someone who has heart disease or high blood pressure or a family history of heart problems, naproxen might genuinely be the smarter NSAID for you, worth asking your pharmacist or doctor about. And option 4, this one's specifically for people in higher risk categories. If you're over 65, if you have a history of stomach ulcers, if you're on blood thinners or heart medication, please actually talk to your doctor before taking ibuprofen regularly. Because for you, this isn't a minor inconvenience risk. The risk-benefit calculation is genuinely different.
All right, let's bring it home. Here are the 3 things I want you to walk away with today. Number 1, ibuprofen works. It's a useful, legitimate drug. I'm not telling you to throw it away. Number 2, but it is not harmless. At the cellular level, it's attacking your gut lining in ways you can't feel. And at higher doses, it raises real cardiovascular risks that most people, and honestly, even some doctors, don't think about. Number 3, you have better options for most everyday pain. Acetaminophen, lower doses, occasional use. And if you need an NSAID regularly, talk to someone first. That's it. That's 9 years of pharmacy school and 2 major scientific papers distilled into 12 minutes. If this was useful, share it. Text it to someone who takes ibuprofen like it's a Tic Tac. And if you want more of this, real science, no fluff, explained like a normal human being, subscribe. New episode every week. See you next time.